Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Historia. I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
I feel like we forget to say our names sometimes, but maybe
Always.
not. But we didn't forget this time, so.
Hey.
We are trying to get our dogs in order.
It's impossible.
Yeah, so this is like we're restarting.
Restarting, yeah.
So, yeah, we're trying to not keep all the barks in here, and hopefully you guys can hear them less.
Yeah, and then we just spent the last 10 minutes trying to search for a bone that my dog hid, and I have no idea where it is.
Yeah.
So
I'm also trying to fix the buzzing sound. If you hear a buzzing sound, I'm trying. Just know that. But yeah, new computer soon, so hopefully that will help.
So here we are talking about another topic today.
Yes.
Exciting. This one is one of my favorites just because it's very interesting.
Yes, I'm super excited. If I say the word basically, Jamie's going to let me know because I say it a lot.
Basically.
And Jamie says iconic a lot. So we're going to make sure,
We're working on it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say it because I can't think of another word.
I know, it's so weird. Oh, gosh. But anyway, bear with us. It's going to be a fun one today. I'm super excited.
Yes.
I've been to this place.
We're taking it back.
Yes. Oh, we're going way back.
Mm-hmm.
We've been, chilling in, well, I guess not mythology, but, we've been chilling, in the 1900s. We're going back.
Way back.
Yeah. Today we'll be talking about Pompeii!
Bum, bum, bum. The eruption at Mount Vesuvius.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exciting. I have always been so interested in Pompeii. I've been wanting to go here. When you were going there, I was so jealous.
Yeah, it was really cool because I didn't know much about it before I went. And then when I got there and, our tour guide told us everything, I was like, wow, that's so cool. I have a picture with our tour guide. He's pretty fantastic.
Was he Italian?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
So it's been 4 years since I've been there. And I'm,
God.
trying to remember things. But I'll talk a little bit about, what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's get started with today's. What do you have for me? What will you be discussing?
Lordy, I'm going to be talking about the history of Pompeii and the culture.
Ooh.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about, how Pompeii was formed, I guess, and, who was living there at what times. And then I'll talk about the culture. And there's a lot of very interesting things. So.
Oh, yeah, it is an extravagant place.
Mm-hmm. And then Jamie will be talking about the actual eruption. So, I'm going to try to get through our history so we can jump into the story that we've all been waiting for.
That we all know.
Yes.
Well, most of us.
And if you don't, now you will. You're welcome. We're educating you.
Education.
You have no say in it. All right. We are going to take it back to talking about the history of Pompeii. Now, we know the eruption happened in 79 AD, but we're going to talk about what happened before that. All right, so Pompeii is located in Italy. It is right next to Naples, Italy. I think it's 17 miles away, so it's pretty close. And then it's on the southeastern base of Mount Vesuvius.
Ooh.
All right, now, Pompeii was built on a spur formed by a prehistoric lava flow to the north of the mouth of the Sarnus River. So the Sarnus River, which now is called the Sarno River. I believe the name changed. I don't know. It just says modern day Sarno River. There you go. So it was built basically on lava.
No way.
Yeah. Fun times. All right.
Fun times.
I don't know what number you got, but I found that it had between 10,000 and 20,000 inhabitants at the time of the destruction.
I got 20,000.
Okay. So, by what they found, it had something similar to that, 20,000.
It's really hard to tell because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
That, getting exact documentation is really hard.
Yep, definitely.
So, everything's estimate.
Yeah, so the language that they had before Pompeii, and there were a lot of other nearby towns that were similar to Pompeii. They were first settled by the Oscan-speaking descendants of the Neolithic inhabitants of Campania. Campania?
I don't know.
I think that's right. So, it started with the Oscan language, which I'm not very familiar with.
I've never heard of that before.
That's what was happening. But then, dun dun dun, Pompeii soon came under influence of the cultured Greeks. So the cultured Greeks started coming there, and they had settled across the bay in 8th century BCE. So now we have the Greeks that are starting to settle, and then the Etruscans came in the 7th century, and they were basically challenged the influence that the Greeks had. So we kind of have this like battle here.
Yeah.
The Etruscans were now the stronger influence, and they remained a strong influence until their sea power was destroyed by King Hieron of Syracuse in a naval battle in 474 BCE. So there's kind of a lot of drama going on there.
There's so much drama on that side of the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. There's war every single year. I don't think there's ever been a time of peace in that area. Okay.
I got vaccinated, my arm's hurting. It's okay. Hopefully no magnets are sticking to me anymore, but that's besides.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so then there was another period of Greek influence that followed after that. So we kind of have this, like, Greek influence that's still happening. And then at the end of the 5th century is when an Italian tribe started coming by. And then the Samnites conquered Campania, Pompeii, Herculaneum. I can never say that. Herculaneum.
Herculaneum.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
And Stabii.
I was trying to figure that out, too.
There's another town.
Yeah, I have it. It's Oplantis.
Yeah. And they became the Samnite towns. That's basically what they were known for.
You know, I have to be honest. For the longest time before that, I knew that that Pompeii was Italian. I always thought it was Greek.
Yeah, it has Greek influence on it. That's probably why.
And that's why I thought, because a lot of, like, the art and whatnot, because you know that, like...
Because Greeks were settled there.
Exactly. So that's what I thought for the longest time, and then I finally realized Pompeii's in Italy, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Do you remember the song? If you close your eyes.
Was that called Pompeii?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that. That was, who are they called?
Bastille or something like that. Bastille?
Was it Bastille?
Yeah. Look it up. We can't play it because copyright issues. They're similar to Mountain Dragons, but no, it was Bastille. Because when I was searching Pompeii videos, it came up. That was the first one. I was like, oh wow. That's the first video. Anyway, yeah, there's a song called Pompeii. There's also a movie. The movie's not accurate. Do not watch it.
Well, that's because it's just dramatization.
Yeah, it's Hollywood.
Isn't Cersei in it? The lady who plays Cersei? I know she's in 300.
I don't know.
But I thought she was in Pompeii as well.
Probably. I don't know. I watched it a while ago. Like right after I went to Pompeii, and I was like, okay.
When it comes to, like, if you're just there to, like, have a good time, it's not, like, the worst.
Yeah, true. You can't take those things too seriously, I guess.
It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood. Anyway, let's get back to this. So then in 310 BCE, there was another Samnite war. The Roman fleet landed on the Samos port of Pompeii. They had an attack, but it was unsuccessful, and it was on the neighboring city, Nuceria, I think is what it's called. So that's where the attack took place.
Yeah.
Again, it was unsuccessful. So the Samnites, lots of wars going on here, as we mentioned. But after the wars, Campania became a part of Roman Confederation, and then the cities became allies of Rome. So all of them are kind of coming together with Rome, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. But they were not completely Romanized. I like that word. It's kind of fun. Until the Social War, which was 90 to 89 BC. It feels so weird saying these years.
Yeah.
Like, it's so long ago. And after that war, Pompeii, along with all of Italy, that was south of the Po River.
Yeah.
So every part of Italy that was south of that river, they received Roman citizenship. So, lots of history. I know I'm giving you guys a lot of facts, but it's just kind of interesting.
If you look at the history of Rome, oh my God, there's so much war.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's ridiculous. Like, you can't cover it in one sitting.
Yeah.
There's just too much unless, like, you just briefly talk about it. There's no way. It's just, it's way too big.
I was only in Rome for one day, and I want to see it more of it because it's just so fascinating. But it's not romantic. It's not like what you see in the movies. Just keep that in mind.
Oh, God, no.
No. Go to, like, the Amalfi Coast if you want something more romantic in Italy, but don't go to Rome.
No, I think if you're looking for a romance, maybe Santorini.
Yeah, that one's nice. The Amalfi Coast was beautiful.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of islands there. But anyway, getting off track. Go to Italy. It's really pretty. All right.
Get cultured.
Get cultured. Come on. So, because Pompeii took part in that war, the social war,
yeah,
they had punishment for their part in the war. So, there was a colony of Roman veterans that established into Pompeii under Publius Sulla, who was the nephew of the Roman general.
Wow.
And then we had Oscan as the main language. I'm probably saying all these words wrong, I'm sorry. So now their language is Latin. So Latin's starting to replace the Oscan language as the official language.
No.
And the city has become Romanized. Alright, so I'm going to dive into the culture now, just talking about what life was like back then. So, let's talk about it. Now, just like with a lot of cultures, they were kind of split into two groups. So we have more of our rich people who lived in luxury, which luxury back then it's kind of funny. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But keep in mind, we did have the group of rich people, which again, I'll talk about a little bit more later. We also had the poor and a lot of slaves that lived lives of treachery.
Oh my
God. Yes, not a fun time for them. Oh my God. Alright, sorry, I just died for a second. The rich Romans actually used to come from the capital to go to Pompeii on holidays.
Oh, okay.
It was a popular place to gamble, have fun, have sex. What does that remind you of?
Is it Vegas?
Yeah. I put modern day Las Vegas, question mark. It feels a lot like how Las Vegas is today. So, which is kind of funny.
Wasn't there a lot of brothels there?
Yeah, which we'll talk about as well.
Hey.
But I have a whole thing about the sex because that's what it's known for. There were ordinary people because of the rich Romans who would come and visit. It was like their ordinary people would sometimes live with these rich Romans. So it was kind of like they were mixing their cultures a lot of the time, or just mixing the really rich and the poor, or not poor, but the ordinary, middle class. So they would live right next to the rich a lot of times.
Oh, so it was kind of like inner
housing. You didn't really see the difference. They weren't in different areas so much as it was they could have lived right near each other. So there was, just to talk a little bit about what was there, we had a forum on one end. We had an amphitheater at the other end. We had a training ground for gladiators, market, temples, baths, and even a brothel. There's only one that they've really been able to see that is still up, but there was probably more than one.
Oh, for sure, because it was a pretty big area.
Yeah.
And a lot of it got destroyed.
There were thousands of people packed into less than 1 square mile. So it was just, it's not a super huge area.
There's just a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of architecture, and even visiting, I was like, how did that many people live here? That's insane. So a lot of people in one small area.
It's like living in New York City. But smaller, I guess you could say. Yeah.
It was partly underground, but it also had road access nearby, so that's why a lot of people went there to travel. As I mentioned, they're kind of divided into two groups. So we have one side that kind of carries the money and jewels, which is interesting because a lot of their bodies were green because of the acid from the jewelry that soaked into them.
Oh my God.
So that's how they knew a lot of them were rich, is by seeing the color that their skeleton turned into.
Ooh.
And they keep those ones in boxes, but
I bet.
they still have a lot of the old jewelry as well. But then there were others who were found with nothing on them. So They kind of knew that those ones were probably more poor because a lot of the rich would take their jewels and try to run away with them.
That's their most prized possession.
Yeah. So that's how they've determined that there's two classes, basically.
Yeah.
And obviously most cultures, that's usually how it goes.
Well, also, I just want to put in, too, that looking at the houses, you can decipher between, like, all of the artifacts that can withstand that heat.
Yep.
And even food that was covered.
Yeah, and they still were able to uncover a lot of jewelry. So you can still see some of their old jewelry, which is really fascinating.
Well, it's like gold and silver still in that, like, can really stand up to heat.
Yeah. So they have a lot of jewelry still in museums nearby, which is really cool.
Ooh.
Okay, so we're going back really far, right?
Whoa.
That being said, we don't have electricity.
Nope.
So people lived according to the rhythms of the sun. Like, literally, like, we're like, okay, the sun's up, we're up. Meaning they got up very, very early to start work. And I'm going to talk about a day in the life there.
Yeah.
Just because I thought that was fascinating, so I found a lot of information on, like, a typical day. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it really, like, gives us a look into their culture. So, in the morning, again, they are waking up very, very early, right when the sun's up, maybe even before the sun's up.
Ew.
Only a few of the houses had water, so most had to take water at public fountains, so they usually went there first thing in the morning, which is, like, that's a lot of people, first thing in the morning, trying to get water.
Yep.
But they, like, really treasured water. They saw the importance of it, and they knew that they couldn't really use a lot of it, so they were good at, like, sparing it.
They're also by an ocean.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes they'd even take some time in the morning to wash themselves with the water, but it was mostly for personal care, for drinking. So then the Romans went to the thermal baths in the morning, usually. That was like their time to do it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they had their own little time. And then it was breakfast. So breakfast usually consisted of bread and cheese. Sometimes there was a vegetable. And sometimes there was a leftover, like anything they had left over.
That's normal.
Yeah.
But it's so weird, like, having bread and cheese in the morning.
Yeah. Like, I would never think, like, I want to have some cheese.
But, like,
I guess breakfast sandwich, there's cheese.
Cultures.
Yeah. Then we had, like, barbers' shops that opened at sunrise. And many people went there just to chill and relax. So this was, like, before work. I'm talking, like, this was before 5 in the morning. They're like, hey, they already went to get water for the day. They already had breakfast, and now they're just chilling before work.
What time do they go to bed?
When it gets dark. They go to bed really early.
6 p.m.
Probably, yeah. So everybody went to work around 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. So this was noble merchants. We had slaves, people that worked in shops. Most people worked in the market, so that was where a lot of people were going. Yeah. And then, of course, we had the farmers in the fields. So everybody's now going to work. They work for a couple hours. And then at 8 a.m. to, like, 9 a.m., the streets are crowded. So this is where, like, people are going to the market. Again, the market's, like, the hot spot. We have a lot of selling and buying going on. It just sounds like utter chaos, but...
Oh, for sure.
And then everybody's also, like, this is the time where they're all walking in the forum and, like, gossiping, like, oh my gosh, did you see what he just did?
Did you see what Brad did last
Brad? I know, right? And yeah, so they were, like, this is where they kind of shared any news that was going on.
Ooh,
a lot of affairs.
Scandalous.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, you got a brothel.
Exactly. And then when it hits about 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., this is their relaxation time. And I actually saw this when I went to Italy. They, like, give you 4 hours of the day to, like, spend with family. Like, whereas in America, we work so much. They haven't, like, their entire lunchtime is a few hours that nobody's supposed to work. Like, they, like, close businesses so that they'll spend time with their family.
What?
Yeah. So that's a difference. But anyway, this was way back when. But they did have a relaxation time. So this is when people went... I love that it's called a relaxation time. But a lot of them relaxed by going to the amphitheater to watch gladiators.
Wow. So relaxing.
Which was a very violent show.
Well, they were violent people. They were just cheering them on.
Yeah. I don't know if it would work in today's culture.
Oh, God, no. Freaking Hunger Games on steroids.
The hype that these fights had or this show had, I guess, was like kind of how football is today in America, like where we just like love football and the fans fight over like my team lost or whatever. I don't know. But it's like the hype of like the Super Bowl. But it was every day. It was like the gladiators fighting. A little bit more violent, obviously.
Well, didn't they use slaves?
Yeah. They would use slaves sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty interesting. I saw the amphitheater when I was there. It's not as big as I was expecting. So.
Well, because you're probably thinking of like the Colosseum size compared.
Yeah, maybe. It was, because I was like, they were like, this is the main amphitheater. And I'm like, this is not very big, but okay. I'm glad they could fight here. That's great. So, just like with football, again, there's fights between fans. There was once a terrible fight between fans from Pompeii and fans from Nocera that actually provoked deaths. So there were a lot of people that were killed. Fans. So they weren't even fighting. They were just very passionate about their town.
No kidding.
Due to that instance, the gladiators were prohibited for several years. They came back, but that was kind of when they were like, let's take a break. Because people are killing each other. So, it might be good to just chill.
Yeah.
And then they'd have lunch. Mm-hmm. So this would be like bread, cake, fish, fruits, etc.
Fish.
Oh, yeah. Salty fish.
Oh, yeah, because they don't have seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, good seasoning.
Like, straight out of the ocean fish.
Well, I mean, I guess that's seasoning.
Yeah. Salted. So that was their relaxation time. So if they weren't watching the gladiators, they were probably just hanging out in the forum, maybe doing more gossip. But usually most people would go to these shows. That's what they call them.
When
so
do
entertainment.
They have time to, like, be scandalous to have gossip?
I mean,
they're going to bed at 6 p.m.
Maybe during that time. I don't know.
Like, he stayed up. Brad stayed up.
Brad.
Past 8.
Just Brad. Brad is in this time period. Around 1:30 to 2:30 is when they would have their thermal baths. So they were very cheap, and slaves could use them as well. This was the best way to wash themselves. Mm-hmm. They also had fun. It was one of their ways of entertainment.
So it was like swimming.
Yeah. I just imagine them like, whee! Splash, splash! There wasn't much to entertain them.
No.
And this was, of course, their time to relax as well. And I'm guessing this is when a lot of the naughty stuff happened. So this was like their time to get all that taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon. That's when I'm most tired. All right. I'm going to talk about life expectancy, which is kind of interesting. But during the Roman age, during this time period, they only lived to be about 35 years old.
Not shocking.
Which is actually more than the previous age as well as the following period. Mm-hmm. So it was actually pretty high for that time.
Well, that's because the plague was coming around.
Yeah. And they actually figured out that because they focused heavily on like taking baths every day.
Yeah.
That's a reason why they lived longer, because we've found that, one of the most important discoveries for human health is hygiene.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why they think they were able to live a little bit longer.
Exactly, because during like the plague era, like when that was going on, they literally did not give two shits about water. Like, there was a dead body in the water, and they're like, well, there's drinking water.
Yummy! I can't wait to try that.
It's like, now you wonder why they died.
All right. And then they would also use these baths as a time to talk business.
Of course.
Politics. And exercise. So, again, swim, I guess.
Swim. Brad's using
Brad's
the like butterfly stroke.
Brad's just in there. Doggy paddle.
As like, check out these sick moves.
They're all just naked, like, no swimsuits. They're just all enjoying each other. Okay.
Enjoying each other.
So that went on for a while. Again, they took their baths seriously. You gotta stay clean.
You gotta stay clean.
Around 3:45 to 4:20 in the afternoon, right before sunset, it's dinner time. Remember, they have to go to bed early. For dinner, they would eat usually olives and eggs, which sounds gross together.
Well, it's not even black olives. It's like white olives.
Yeah, like straight from the tree. Tree? Yeah.
Yeah, they grow on trees. What do you think they grew up?
I was just like, the tree, like, I knew they grew from the ground, but, like, I don't know. Olive tree, yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna crop that out, nobody has to know.
Oh my god, you have to leave it in.
Fine. Okay, there's olive trees, guys. I learned something new. Also, the rich would have meat. Ooh. So I just imagine, like, Brad's over there, like, look at my meat, you get nothing.
My lamb is so tasty.
You guys eat your olives and eggs. So there was sometimes gambling going on, like I mentioned, but for the most part, the nighttime was kind of dead. So because there wasn't a lot of entertainment and the streets weren't very safe, you kind of didn't know what to expect.
There was a bunch of burglars.
There was a lot of fighting, a lot of prostitution. Just there was a lot of things going on.
Nightlife.
And again, 4 p.m. That's what we're talking about. So they would go to bed early just to prevent anything from happening. They're lame.
Except Brad.
Brad was up all night long.
He would go to the brothels.
Yeah, and some people did go to the brothels at this time. A lot of the houses were knocked down together to make one big home. So a lot of people, again, were living in one home. And I remember my tour guide talking about this, but, like, again, like hundreds of people in one tiny building. Which sounds...
New York.
Yeah. Like, laying on top of each other.
Yeah.
Like, oh my... You cannot even walk around.
Mm-mm. Well, that's why they would go out in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
You gotta get their steps in.
Yeah. It just sounds, you know, like a fun time.
Does it?
They also would have, like, separate quarters for their slaves or their servants. So they would stay somewhere else, usually. But early archaeological remains reveal that there's kind of more standardized residential look. Kind of like what we're used to now, so there wasn't, like, a lot of villas. So it just depended on the area. Mm-hmm. Some looked more like... And I'm guessing that's where, like, the wealthy would be, like, in kind of their own separate area. So, yeah. Again, because they've found those different architecture pieces of, like, okay, we have a bunch of people staying here. This is where the servants stayed. And then this is where, like, the more wealthy people stayed. That kind of helped them realize that there was social inequality.
Yeah.
But they also found recently, not super recently, but, like, later on.
Yeah.
They found snack bars across the city. And they believe that this was used for the poor residents who rarely had cooking facilities at home. So a lot of these included, like, coarse bread, salty fish, baked cheese, lentils, and spicy wine.
Spicy wine?
Yes. I don't know what that means, but I want to try it. So that was kind of where the poor could go. If they needed, because they couldn't really cook, so.
Unless you were a cook.
Yeah, then, yeah, of course. Let's talk about the sex life there.
Ooh,
because there's just a whole thing about it. And trust me, I remember going there and being like, Jesus, relax, everybody.
Just like that.
Well, it was just everywhere. Yeah. This was a place known for sexual freedom and adultery. All the time.
I don't care.
Oh, no.
So Brad's doing just fine.
Brad's living his best life. There's, like, explicit pictures literally everywhere. They actually had to remove some of them because they were too inappropriate. Wow. So when they first uncovered them, they were like, all right, let's get this out of here because the public eye should not see this.
Don't take away history, even though it's very provocative.
And I remember, like, little kids, like, looking at the pictures and just being like, what? What's happening? So, yeah, they're everywhere, though. Like, in most of the houses, people had those paintings to show, like, look how masculine I am. So, they were literally in most buildings.
Yeah.
There was a building called the Secret Cabinet, and women were not allowed to go in there.
So it's like a men's-only club.
Yes. It was kind of like Pornhub, because, like, there were a bunch of, like, paintings of people having sex in different positions.
Yeah. And
that was pretty much all it was. So they just went in there and, like, looked at those. And they were like, yeah, super cool. So dumb. There's one painting where, like, it shows... I was watching a documentary on this, but, like, there's one painting where, like, two people, they're having sex, and then there's, like, a servant in the background.
Yeah.
He's just watching them. So there wasn't a lot of privacy. They did not care.
No.
They're like, let's just be free. It's fine. Again, everybody had erotic pictures if they wanted to be welcoming. It was kind of their way of being like, welcome to my house. Like, it'd be like in the living room, like in the main area. It was just normal. There's phallus drawings everywhere. So they're on, like, most buildings. And a lot of them mean to, like, wish them good happiness.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was, like, if it was at a bakery, if there was, like, a phallus on the wall, and they're at a bakery, it means, like, your bakery's gonna succeed. The bread will rise. Like, it was their way of, it was like a good luck charm, which is kind of funny. But yeah, that's something I also noticed, is that there's phalluses everywhere. Literally. Everywhere.
Take a teenage boy there.
Yeah.
Have the time of his life.
There was something that they couldn't share for a while, too. Something that they had to hide from the public. And it was a bronze lamp that had bells hanging on it.
Yeah.
And it has this man who's literally cutting off his phallus.
What?
And they didn't share this for years. So now it's in a museum. But literally, it's like hanging out. It's like super long. And you just see him, like, angrily cutting it off. Oh, no. And that's just, it's, like, supposed to represent, like, the struggle with, like, masculinity. Or something like that. And, like, the power that it has. So, many people say that the phalluses on the wall actually point to the brothels and bathhouses. But that's really not proven.
Yeah.
Because they have only been able to uncover one brothel. So they can't really prove that. But I did hear that from my tour guide as well. But as I researched it more, they aren't actually sure of that. So there, like I said, there is one brothel there. And it's basically, you walk in and it's this tiny little open space. Like, it's small. And there's, like, a step. There's painting of sex positions all over the wall. Fun times. But I just, like, it's hard floor, obviously.
Yeah.
And, like, the prostitutes just go into this tiny little hole. They get it done. And it's like, it's just crazy. Such a small area.
And it's wild, too, that it survived everything. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think, like, that the drawings and the obsession with, like, sex and, like, the way that they symbolize it so much, I think it had less to do with, like, the sex and, like, the pleasure, and more to do with male power.
Yeah.
Of, like, masculinity. Because really, that's the reasons why it was happening, is so men could be like, look how great we are. We're so powerful. We're strong men. So
I'm pretty sure if, like, the women were cheating on their husbands, it would probably be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, men have always been in power, and this is just one instance of that. So, but that's, like, the basic culture of Pompeii, and what it was like before the eruption.
So, pretty good life.
Oh, yeah. Fun times. You wake up super early, go to bed early. So
Sounds
lame.
Awful.
So lame.
Oh, God. I would have a terrible time.
Yeah, no, I can never.
I'm not a morning person. I am a night owl, so that would be really hard for me.
Going to bed when the sun sets, like, what?
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
But, so, I guess I'll get on to the eruption. Good old Mount Vesuvius.
Woo!
So, we know you went over that this happened in 79 AD. So, in my research, I was looking that a lot of it is very confident that it happened between August 24th and the 25th. But I found in one of the articles I was reading that it could have well been in October.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Pliny the Younger was saying that it was in August, I believe. It's so back and forth. I'm like, I don't know. Was August even a month at this point?
It was around that time, I guess.
Yeah.
Around that time of year.
Yeah, so it was either in late summer or early fall. So, or I guess fall, whatever. So, the volcano was Mount Vesuvius. It's massive. It's one of the most deadly because of, like, what happened, and it's just, it's so sad.
It's huge.
It's also, this eruption that occurred in 79 AD has become one of the earliest well-documented eruptions. to be by Pliny the Younger. I'll kind of briefly talk on him after I get through everything, because he does play a very crucial role in this, because his uncle was trying to help save people.
Oh, wow.
But he died.
Well, so we love the effort, though.
Love the effort, but Pliny watched it all pretty much go down, and luckily he was not anywhere close that could really hurt him.
That's good.
Yeah. So, the cities that were affected were Herculaneum, Oplontis, Save?
Here we go again.
Good Lord. And Pompeii. So, I will probably focus mostly on Pompeii and Herculaneum, because they have really been excavated, explored, because the other two that I've mentioned, I couldn't really find a lot on just like what's happened since, but on Herculaneum and Pompeii,
they're like the two main areas.
Exactly, because Herculaneum was like right at the foot of the volcano, which is like a bad place to put a city.
Oh, for sure.
Never put your city right by a mountain. You don't know if it's going to explode.
10 out of 10 would not recommend that.
No. So, if you know Italy, you know they are very prone to earthquakes. They are constantly shaken.
Yep.
They're used to it.
They're all shook up.
Exactly. So when there were earthquakes leading up to a couple days before the 24th, they found that normal. They just did a little, whoa, like, oh my God, it's shaking.
Wow.
But then they would just be like, okay, let's rebuild whatever fell or whatever, and we'll move forward. Little did they know that these earthquakes were not just happening because of like the tectonic plates like going, Rah!
Yeah. Makes sense.
I made a little hand motion.
Yeah, she's like moving her arms, her hands.
But it was because of the volcano starting to just get full.
Okay,
I guess I'll explain it like that, as like a person eating.
Yeah.
It's just like,
you keep digesting.
My tummy hurts. That's what Vesuvius was.
Too many breadsticks.
Too many breadsticks. Oh, God. So, this city in Pompeii has become the most iconic one that we hear of, not like Herculaneum, like we don't hear of that, because it's one of the most standing ones that we know of. It's like, it's the furthest from, I don't know if it's the furthest from the mountain, but it didn't burn as nearly as much, so and the people who are frozen in time. That's where we see.
It's pretty far from the mountain.
Exactly. So I'm just doing an overview right now before I get into like the actual thing. But so there's just so much history to it, as you were explaining, of just, there's still paintings that you can see. There's still buildings put together. There's still, you can see pretty much almost the faces of the people.
Mm-hmm. They like kept them in the same positions that they were in.
Exactly, because that's how they died.
Yeah.
And were covered in the ash, where Herculaneum burned at such a high temperature.
They couldn't recover much.
No, because there was no way that the bodies could withstand.
Yeah.
So if a lot of their excavation there has been mostly just bone recovery, because there's just not a lot to look for in that time, because it was just way too hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start. So there was 2 phases during this eruption. So you have, this happened within 2 days, the 24th and 25th. I'm just going to say those days because that's what I mostly found in my research, were those 2 days. So the first phase is the Plinian phase. This got its name from Pliny the Younger, because he was the one who documented what was going on, what he saw during the first phase that really kind of was just like, there's something going on with Vesuvius that we don't understand.
That was before or after?
So this was before the actual eruption.
Okay.
Because the first phase was just a mild thing that they thought, oh, it was just a hit and done thing. Oh, there's nothing that's going to come of it. But then the second day, that's when like the real shit came and destroyed everything. But Pliny, he was just staring out like, this volcano isn't looking so good, because they didn't know that it was going to erupt like it did. Because they estimated around like every 2,000 years that Vesuvius would
erupt.
I don't know if it has in the last few years.
I don't think it has, but they know it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's bound to, because I guess it happened even like a couple thousand years before that, so it's just like, it's inevitable.
Right.
So, and it's really dangerous for people to be living around there, but people are going to do it, so that's your life. Do it.
Yeah, you know what happened, but...
Exactly. So, we move forward. So, other than the earthquakes that were occurring for as like a warning sign to get out, like, hey, I'm the Vesuvius was like, my stomach's not feeling well, like I'm shaking, like you guys.
He spoke those words to the town.
So it was about 1 p.m. as Pliny the Younger and the Elder were, because he even did some like recordings. But pretty much it was the 24th when the first wave was like setting in, that Vesuvius like spat out stuff. So I don't know the science behind this stuff, because I did not get a science degree in volcanoes.
There's a lot too.
There is a lot that I had to look up, because I had no freaking idea what any of this meant. I just knew the basics of what happened at Pompeii. I did not understand the other stuff that was occurring. So, the first thing that happened with the earthquake was a column from Vesuvius that was building up. So this was including like gases, like really hot gases, and pyroclast. I didn't know what that meant, so I had to look that up. And supposedly it's a fragment of rock, especially like volcanic rock that was forming. And it was just building up inside Vesuvius to the point where it couldn't hold it anymore, so it like threw it up, pretty much. It was like, bleh.
You know, when you get too full, there's a limit.
Yeah, so it splat. It just started going all over the area, and this caused a really big mushroom cloud to form. So, like, if you ever look at Mount St. Helens, that eruption that happened in the 1980s, like that big cloud that formed, that's pretty much what happened, and people were like, oh shit, what's that?
Yeah.
Because they had no idea what was going on. And this created not only created the cloud that started falling over these cities, but it also formed just a raining of just ash and pumice, which is volcanic rock. So that it's just kind of like the flurries that you see, like whenever we kind of have like fires.
Yeah, and
just
you can see
burning,
yeah.
It's different because it's from a volcano instead.
Right.
So the ash was just falling over pretty much every single city that was in the radius of Mount Vesuvius. I think it was like a 25-kilometer radius.
Okay.
I believe. Don't quote me on that. But, so the ash covered primarily the south side of the mountain, but the winds kept moving it around. So that's why it kept going through Oblonti, Pompeii, pretty much anyone.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was a shit show. It lasted about 18 hours.
Oh.
It kept falling, and luckily by the time that I hit Pompeii, it wasn't really like as harmful to like the touch, to where like it didn't really burn as much as like it probably did at Herculaneum or Oblonti.
So if it hit you in the face, it'd be like, ow, but it wouldn't like give you burns.
I don't think so, because there wasn't the deaths that occurred weren't because of the ash.
Yeah.
That wasn't harmful. It was what the ash was doing.
That makes sense.
Pretty much to the architecture.
Yeah.
So this falling was just like a snowstorm. It was gray and it was white and it was just not fun to deal with because there was a lot of it. So the total was about 2.5 meters. So to us Americans who don't like to follow meters, it's about 8.2 feet that fell.
Okay.
That's a lot of ash.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even get 2 feet of snow. It's really insane. Rare that we get that here. Maybe in more northern states.
Right. But you said 8 feet?
Yeah, not even the northern states get 8 feet.
No.
Yeah, it's a lot. So about 1.3 to 1.4 meters, so about 4.3 to 4.6 feet was gray pumice. And then about 1.1 to 1.3 meters, so 3.6 to 4.3 feet, was that fell was so the 4 feet was white, and then white pumice, and then the 3.6 to 4.3 was the gray pumice that fell. Okay. So it was just like a mixture of both. Yeah. So, but the buildings were built well. What they built was very well, but it's like when you have 8 feet of just ash and rock falling on top of your building, there's no freaking way that's gonna like hold. It was about 476 pounds.
That's insane.
Of weight that was just being planted onto the city and onto just the roofs to where they no longer could hold. So the roof started to collapse. And, of course, people are taking shelter in their homes because they felt that was the right thing to do. Which it is.
Especially if you're not used to it, like when it's that intense.
Exactly. And then when the roof would fall, anybody who was on the first floor, their floors started to crumble because of the ash. So no matter what floor you were on, like, you still had that fear of being, not only like suffocated by the ash, but also just having your roof fall on top of you. So it was rough.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was so scary.
Oh, for sure. So this, not all of the buildings like fell. A lot of them could, especially the bigger buildings, could suffice all of this, but a lot of like the individual homes, they just couldn't stand. There was just no hope for them. But, so there was about 20,000 people who were in Pompeii. About 18,000 left that first day. They were like, I'm not going to test this. I'm going to leave. Wow. Yeah, so there was because when I looked up just like how many people, like an estimate of like how many people died, because that's just like the amount of people they found, they said it was about 2,000. Yeah. So a lot of people did get out, which is really, really good of them. But still, 2,000
a lot of people.
Is a
wow.
lot. Yeah.
And they couldn't go anywhere nearby because they'd probably still get killed.
No, so they had to go out toward Naples.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There was just no way that they could stay anywhere close, because they could even siege from any of the towns that are nearby. Like, they're probably getting hit as hard. Like, we need to get away from this island. Like, we need to get off. So, which is hard, because if you have 18,000 people trying to do the same thing as you, like, you're probably scared, terrified, running through the streets, trying to get away.
I want to know why the 2,000 people stayed. Like, when you see that many people leaving.
I don't know. A lot of them could be the wealthy, thinking that this is my livelihood, I need to stay.
Makes sense.
This is my home, I don't want to leave it.
It's just fascinating.
Exactly. And of course we're not going to know.
Because even, like, there were, like, kids that were uncovered.
Exactly.
Like, what did you think? Like, we got to take the kids and go. But...
Well, it's just like when you're thinking of your children, their idea of parenting was different.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of times, like, their parenting, they weren't even parents. They would just pawn it off to a nanny or a servant, really.
Yeah.
Or they would put them through, like, a schooling like the Spartans did.
Fun times.
Yeah. So, A lot of, like, the people who stayed, though, thought that, well, this is probably the end. That's probably why they stayed, that, like, this is probably just a fluke thing that happened, like, because they didn't understand what volcanoes do, necessarily. They probably saw, like, oh, it's just a smoke, well, we'll rebuild. That is what we do, because they're used to doing that with earthquakes.
Yeah.
Volcanic eruptions are not earthquakes.
No, they're a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. Like, earthquakes can cause a lot of damage, but this is a powerful volcano that they highly underestimated, for sure. Which led into phase 2, was the Pelian phase. So this, I can't remember what it's named after, but I believe it was a city, maybe?
Okay.
Oh, God. I have this too. My God.
It's fine.
It's 9 o'clock. It's past my bedtime.
It's getting late on a Saturday night.
I'm a night owl who goes to bed at 9.
That's called getting old.
So, the next morning, the ash pretty much was starting right away. Like, it was just continuous. People were like, well, this is getting, like, it's not too bad as it was. But, like, little did they know, Vesuvius was having another stomach ache.
Ugh.
He was just like, I don't know what I ate last night, but, like,
it wasn't just a 24-hour bug.
No, I'm ready to, like, let it rip.
He's like, I can't hold it any longer. Y'all better leave.
Yeah, so it was pretty early in the morning that the first pyroclastic surge hit the cities. So the difference between of what happened was that, so a pyroclastic, what did I call it? Just of what happened before, for like the column just giving that mushroom cloud, was just volcanic rock, just kind of in the gases like releasing, just kind of giving that ash. It wasn't like as harmful. A pyroclastic flow is like the lava starting to come down, and that's what was happening too during like the first phase that Pliny the Younger was seeing, was just this flow of lava going out into like the sea, and he was like, this isn't looking good.
Oh.
Yeah, but this would lead into a pyroclastic surge, which is like the big guy. That is like freaking surges can blow up half of the mountain because of how powerful it can be. And that's what happened, was that it just finally just, Vesuvius just like threw up everything that he had eaten the night before. And it just went everywhere. It was really hot. It was really, really dark. It was very cloudy. It was very ashy. It was everywhere. No one stood a chance. Just poor people. They just had no idea what they were getting themselves into. So this was a very, very highly intense heat that was coming off from Vesuvius. Like, not only was it just plummeting rocks everywhere and ash, but it was just, now it had like an exponential heat to it that was pretty much the death of everybody. So immediately after this surge was just continuing from Herculaneum, Oblonti, it hit Pompeii pretty hard. But it was just sudden death for the people who were the closest to the volcano. Yeah. And I have... it was asphyxiation was a big one too that caused the death, because a lot of people, especially in Pompeii, they didn't get, it was really hot, but those who were like protecting themselves inside their shelter, they were dying from asphyxiation from the smoke, from the ashes. Like there was, and then it didn't help with then that intense heat and ash.
It's just a mix of kind of all of it happening.
Exactly, and that's what froze them into place, because there was this volcanic like density, or just volcanic ash that with the heat it just immediately stiffened, and turn them into the figures that we see today.
So crazy.
If you've never seen them, look them up. Like, it's pretty impressive. Like, a lot of them, you can see, like, their facial structures. Like, some of them are so defined by the nose, it blows my mind. Like, they look like someone sculpted them.
Yeah, like, they do. And a lot of them are, like, holding themselves. Like, they look terrified.
Like, not one of them has, like, the same pose unless they're, like, with their family kind of curled up, which is so devastating to see, too. Because it's just, like, you see, I think there's one where it's, like, a mother holding her child.
Yep.
And that is just the most devastating. That really gets to people.
I remember seeing that one,
like, I can't imagine what she was telling her child before they passed. It's crazy. It's
horrible.
So, the temperatures that hit were beyond what anybody can handle. So, in Herculaneum, the temperature that hit everybody was 500 degrees Celsius. So, for us Americans.
You gotta define everything.
Exactly. It was 932 degrees Fahrenheit.
What?
I can't even handle 100 degrees.
No!
It's bad.
I thought Arizona was bad.
Yeah, no, that's like 9 times more. And then in Oblantis, I didn't know that it got the most extreme heat. It was 600 degrees Celsius, so it was about 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit that these people perished in sudden death.
That's hotter than an oven.
Yes, this is,
way hotter.
I know. I used to be a kid who would be like, oh, what's this? Touch. Ow!
Yeah, learn the hard way.
I was that kid, yes. Imagine that in freaking 900 degree weather.
Yeah, maybe don't.
It's not a fun way to go. At least it was quick. That's all I can give it.
True.
But it's still such a bad way to die.
And the fear that they had.
Oh, for sure. And then in Pompeii, it was significantly cooler, but still hot to where, like, you're not going to survive. It was about 250 to 300 degrees Celsius, so that's about 482 to 572 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, my.
Yeah, very, very hot. So, the people who in Pompeii, because it was significantly cooler, they didn't necessarily die like that sudden death, especially if they were outside, for sure. They were going to die 100% quickly, but those who were either like in, I don't think they had basements, but you were saying that they lived down.
Yeah, they were like underground areas.
Exactly. So any of those people who were like in any chamber areas or in just those areas, they are underground mostly. They would die slower.
Oh my.
Especially, they were even finding that some of them who were becoming those like ash statues were still alive until they really got hit, which is like absolutely terrifying, because if it's getting you from like the leg up, you're not getting that full heat until it hits your head pretty much, and it's just, oh god, it's awful.
It is.
But in Herculaneum, a lot of people, when they, after that first hit, a lot of them were trying to escape by sea.
Oh.
And then that's when the surge hit them. Everybody on shore was wiped out. It was a sudden death that people were trying to leave by sea. And that's what happened to Pliny the Elder.
Okay.
Was that he got hit and...
Just bad timing, or like...
Well, he was trying to help save people.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know if it was from the flow. I don't think it was the flow. I believe it was the surge that happened to them.
Okay.
The first surge, because I believe there was 2.
That makes sense.
And it just killed everyone who was out by sea, because he was trying to get his boat over. He was an author. But he was like a really well-known man, a real prominent man that people respected in the community, in the Roman community. And so he was trying to help get people away from the volcano, but he risked his life, and in return, his life ended.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so his nephew Pliny the Younger actually took his place because that's what a lot of elite men would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he ended up doing. And he was only like 17 when this happened.
Wow.
When he was experiencing this. Like,
That's crazy.
He has his letters that he was writing that you can read. And they're just so emotional of just like everything going on and just his explanation of everything. But it's like, it was so long ago. It's just like this was just from his perspective. It's only one person's perspective, but it's still documented, which is like, so there has to be some sort of truth to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially from the evidence that we see from these people.
Right. It'd be a little hard to make up.
Yeah. But this extreme, he just like did not, it just was really bad. It killed everybody.
Yeah.
And it just wiped out the whole area, which is just devastating. But the crazy thing too is that with what we found in this 2,000 years is that oh my god.
Oh.
Is that we can still tell from these statues that if they're a man, woman, or child. Like, they figured it out.
And their class, like, the fact that they can tell, it's crazy.
It's like they still, because it was pretty much, this whole area was preserved by ash. And, like, it's hard to, because there's really nothing underneath anymore. Like, there's no part of the body because it was burned away. But, like, there's still that outer shell that we can still define of, like, what it is. There's so much information to it that they have found so much leading up to it. Mm-hmm. And it's been amazing.
And they didn't start discovering it until, like, 1700s, was it?
Yeah. Because I think Herculaneum was... one that they found, especially like the first dug up, was like the amphitheater. Yeah. And then that's when they started discovering like Pompeii and just uncovering everything from there.
So wild. Oh my god.
It blows my mind how this happened and it just kind of was left alone for 2,000 years. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. But like...
Wow.
Vesuvius, your bellyache caused thousands to die.
Oh, it's crazy that I have a picture, like, standing in front of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what's up?
It's like, a little did you know, like,
yeah.
Like, I'm coming for you.
He's evil!
Yeah, like, researching Pompeii, it gets me thinking of all the volcanoes here in the U.S. of, like...
Yeah.
What if they explode again? Because I love talking to my parents about the Mount St. Helens eruption. Yeah. Because it was in the 80s.
Oh, we should do that one soon.
That would be a fun one because my parents would always explain, like, because I believe they were both in Colorado at the time, and just the ash that came from Mount St. Helens in Washington to Colorado, and how just like ashy it was, and they could just see it falling, and it's like Washington is a long way away. Like there was an additional 8 feet of pumice left after everything, after the surge. Like there was an additional 8 feet.
That's hard to believe. That's crazy.
It is. It's just like that's a lot. That covers an entire town. So, no more fresh water, no more bass for Brad.
No, Brad, rest in peace. He was definitely one that stayed. For sure.
Oh, for sure.
Brad did not care. He's like, we're all going to be fine. Brad stayed.
Brad stayed. Hashtag Brad stayed.
Oh my god. Who let us have a podcast? Ourselves.
Oh god.
Are we on to what we learned? Our advice?
Yeah. I'm gonna give mine first.
Okay.
Do not live by a volcano. Don't do it. I know we're pretty close to Yellowstone. No, we're not, but like Yellowstone will like kill us all.
Yeah.
But like, don't live by a volcano.
Yeah, mine was gonna be don't live by Mount Vesuvius, but that one works too. If you see ash getting deeper and deeper, get out.
You gotta go.
Go.
Don't
be a Brad.
Don't be a Brad.
That's really the lesson here. Don't be a Brad.
Don't be a Brad.
Go to bed when everyone else goes to bed. Just kidding.
Yeah. Go take a bath with other people.
Go to the thermal bathhouse.
I think they still have those.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a common thing here in the U.S., but I think they still have them in Europe.
They do. Yeah. I'm excited to cover more
European bathhouse. Go to it and tell me what you thought. I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
Go to Pompeii.
Yes, that's on my bucket list.
But be careful, because you might turn into ash when you go.
Oh my God, don't say it.
It's possible.
If it's 2,000 years, then it's probably going to happen in 2079, so we might just be dead. So that's
true. Yeah, that's true, but it is getting closer.
Oh God.
Woo, okay. Yeah, just be careful, guys.
Oh God. It is getting late. I'm tired. I've been up since 6 a.m.
It's getting late. It's 9:16.
I know, but I've been up since 6 a.m.
You've been up for a while.
Thanks to
I
my
took
cat.
a long nap. I'm going to be up all night.
Oh, dude.
I'll just play some Sims.
Heck yeah.
Woo! Man. Exciting things, guys.
Trip. Yes, this one has been a lot of fun just because I've been super interested in it and I know that you've been to it. Researching it was very informative and very confusing at times. Alrighty. Well, our dogs are being a ruckus, so.
Hopefully we get a babysitter soon. Dog sitter.
Hopefully.
Babysitter. I don't know.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Historia.
I bet you forgot the name of it for a second.
No.
Yeah. Episode 6. Woo!
Wow.
That's a wrap. Alright. We'll see you. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Yes.
I would say we'll see you, but we probably won't see you. Unless we know you personally. Okay. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Goodbye!
Bye.
Bye, everyone.